How's everybody doing? I thought today would be a good day to have a Miz in the midday. And I want to talk about one player. And what I want to address is that you have certain people out there. I'm thinking it's more of the younger generation that's, infatuated with these young wide receivers. The wide receivers are everything to them. They think that if you line up 10 wide receivers, you win championships. And a lot of this shit comes from the media and ESPN. So the young kids, of today, I understand it's a different football game. It's a passing league. Got news for you. The trenches still win Super Bowls. You all locked into Mahomes. No doubt Mahomes is special. He's going to be great, if not the greatest ever. But the Kansas City Chiefs are about to embark on a dynasty, if they aren't already one. Why? The trenches. The trenches still wins championships. The trenches won us 4 Super Bowls. So I got to go by my history. And I saw all 4. And the trenches won for Kansas City. Their O-line played strong. Their D-line has been dominant for most of the year. Believe it or not, that's not what the Chiefs are known for. Somebody who doesn't watch the Chiefs, doesn't live in Kansas City, doesn't watch 17 games of Kansas City. We're the Giants fan base. We're locked into our team. But if you watched or you go ask a Kansas City fan, you just look at the stats alone. The Kansas City Chiefs, their front 4, led by defensive coordinator, who to me is already a lock to be a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator coach, in Steve Spagnuolo. 5 Super Bowls. His defenses have done damage in this league. And now the Chiefs, believe it or not, are led by their defense. Their secondary strong, their front 4, Jones in the middle of that line. A la Dexter. We're hoping to get to that level. I'm not saying we're going to win 3 out of 4 championships and looking ahead may win another 1 or 2, right, Kansas City? I'm not saying we're going to be that, but you want to get to that. I'm a big believer in your organization is what it is. The Giants have won 4 championships, and we got to get back to what the Giants football is. And what the Giants football is a strong foundation in the trenches, right? And we're talking O-line, D-line, and we're talking about a 1-2-headed monster at running back. One of them has to be a bull between the tackles, like we've always had. Go back to Joe Morris, Rodney Hampton, Charles Wade was a fullback, right? For a while, we had Gary Brown, another horse. Then you had Brandon Jacobs, who was a monster. Ahmad Bradshaw, a little baby bull, right? And you even had a third back in those years, Ward, who was also a very physical man between the tackles. And the Giants got to get back to that. Look, a guy I came to talk about that a lot of young guys or people I see on Twitter are poo-pooing. Brock Bauer. I don't care what you say. Oh, he's just a tight. He's not just a tight end. This guy is a beast. He can line up in the slot. He's got a 4.5 speed. His hands are glue without the sticky gloves. This guy has a great pair of hands. He's a sure lock thing. A lot of scouts consider him to be arguably the greatest tight end in college history, if not one of. Now look, you're all enamored with this Neighbors. You're all crazy for quarterbacks. I get it. But I'm going to make a case for you today. That if the Giants stay at 6 and their quarterback ain't there, and I still believe the QB they want is Drake May. Some of you like Khalib. Okay, whatever. Let's go with the top 3. Daniels. Those 3 are gone, let's say. I make a strong case. Brock Bauer is the second best weapon in the entire draft, behind only Harrison Jr. Now, a lot of you are obsessed with Neighbors. I get it. His speed, he's a ridiculous athlete. He reminds people of Odell in ways. I get it. A game-breaking wide receiver. You got yourself a game-breaking tight end. You're getting a dual threat. A man that can line up at wideout, can line up in the slot, can line up at tight end, catch balls anywhere down the field, whether it's 7 yards or 37 yards on a post. Okay? Go look at the film. He gets down the field real fast. He runs a 4.5. He's big. He's strong. He's got ridiculous hands. And he's a pretty solid damn blocker. So the Giants, who lack at blocking on the trenches, one of the worst teams over a decade at blocking on the line of scrimmage, you're getting a blocker, another big blocker, and a wide receiver, a big one, who's fast with great hands, who runs a pretty impressive route tree from all spots. Outside, inside, slot, wide out. You're getting a wide receiver and a blocker. Now I know people think, oh, you can't take a tight end at 6, not when you have this many needs. Yo, you're getting 2 and 1. You put him along with Bellinger for the next 5, 6, 7 years here, right? You got a dual threat tight ends. Both are big blockers. Both can catch balls. And then you're getting this absolute stud in Bowers who can line up at wideout. You add him with the Hyatt on the outside, the slot, and Wandell. And I believe Wandell is going to be one hell of a slot wide receiver once we fill in the pieces. And you can go in free agency and go get yourself a real top wide receiver. It may not be Higgins, but there's receivers out there. You could add someone. Trade a 2 for Ayuk. You're not giving up the 6. You could trade one of your 2s for Ayuk. I believe if he's unhappy in San Fran, the Niners would do it. Now you got your outside number 1. Look, man. The New England Patriots had 2 tight ends during their dynasty, their 20-year run. And obviously Hernandez and Gronk stood out as a beast. And boy, it's all they really needed. They never needed sick wide receivers, top ones, because you had this guy, you could fill him in with average receivers, and he makes them look real good. He raises them. You got to double up and worry about a threat like this over the middle of the field. Denver Broncos, what was it, 97, 98? You had Shannon Sharp, beast tight end, and a physical running game. Kansas City, Kelsey, San Francisco 49ers all these years that they've been knocking on the door. They may have not won the Super Bowl, but they're right there at the doorstep. Kittles. A lot of guys compare this guy, Bowers. He's a better version of Kittles. You tell me you're going to poo-poo at that? Look, man. Big-time tight ends match up. And they are one of the big reasons why these teams are big-time teams for a large amount of years. It's not a one-year thing, brothers. So when you sit there and tell me, you can't take a Bowers at 6. He's just the tight end. You're wrong. He's a franchise, could be a division-changing weapon. Now, I believe a lot of you guys don't want him. And the reason why is because it means the Giants stick with Daniel Jones and they're giving him the pieces and they're getting behind him and thinking he could be the guy. And a lot of you guys hate Jones, and I think that's where it's stemming from. But don't sit there and tell me he's just the tight end and you can't take him at 6. This man's going in the top 10, and whoever gets him is getting a monster. To me, a game changer. To me, the second best weapon in the draft behind Harrison Jr. Believe it. Go do the homework. You sit there, you tell me no, hell no, I won't watch the Giants again. You know what that tells me? You're incompetent and you're uneducated. Go educate yourself. Go take a look at this kid. So if the QB ain't there, or Joe Shane and Dabble are going the path of building the team and not taking the... If they take the quarterback, I'm with it. I get it. And I'm one who wants a quarterback. And I wouldn't trade up to 1 or 2 and give up pieces for it because I'm not giving up my assets of building a team. But I'm all for using your 2-2s to come back up and grab a J.J. McCarthy or a Penix and have the plan B in case, in place in case the Daniel Jones doesn't work out. But I've been telling you, week 1, Daniel Jones is running out the tunnel. And you haters who want to say, he's injured, he won't be ready, there's no way he's going to play, or you're wrong. That man's so far ahead. Something you don't realize if you guys don't live in the gym and you're not alphas is that you're going to get back and you're going to get healthy. And you're going to work out like a beast to get yourself back. And those type of guys heal quicker. Daniel Jones is way ahead of schedule. He's going to be way more ready than anyone thinks way before week 1. You'll see him in August. Believe that. Now, listen. Like I said, I'm for putting plan B in place behind Jones. Sit for a half a year or a year, learn. But you still got to build a team. So we're walking a fine line here between half the fan base who wants to give up the world and just go get the young QB. They think that that's going to change the world. It might down the road. And then the other half that's still, we got to keep building this team and you can't just go all in on one guy. And we're not even sure if one of these top 3 guys is really those elite franchise quarterbacks. They could be. We don't know. Does this guy match up with their? I'm not going into the quarterbacks today. That's for another day. I'm here to tell you, go watch the film, go educate yourself, and know what big-time tight ends have done for franchises over the last 30, 40 years. Go back and look at all the multiple Super Bowl winning teams. They all had one of those elite big-time tight ends. I'll even take it back to the 80s when we had Mark Bavaro. And I know it was a different game back then. I get it. But the more things change, the more they stay the same. When you dominate in the trenches and you are the more physical team in the league, you're going to be a contender consistently. And we've gotten away from that. Even in 07, 06, 08, those years we had a dominant O-line. You had Jeremy Shockey, who scared the wits out of the league. Then you went to Boss, who was a physical, strong, quiet tight end, but a big man who can block. Tight ends mean the world, especially if you got one like this who's a weapon and a half across the field and a blocker. And I would love to draft this kid at 6 or even fall back a couple of spots, but still stay within. I would not be mad. I'm not saying the Giants are drafting him, but he's definitely an option on their board, whether you like it or not. And he's definitely not just some tight end. Because if you think that, then you don't have a clue what you're talking about when it comes to NFL football. Again, take your mind off the sexy fantasy players that you're going to see the highlights on ESPN at night. And put your mind on what it takes to build a core and win a championship. It's in the trenches. And this guy gives you more than just the trenches. Way more. Again, you go put my name on it. This guy and Bellinger together would be a force in the NFC East. You could tell me what you want. You could be in love with Neighbors or Thomas Jr. I get it. Or Doomsday. Those are great players. They are. They might make big marks in the NFL. I sit here today headed to the draft and telling you Brock Bowers is the second best weapon in this NFL draft behind the Ohio State wide receiver. That's how I feel. Just go take a look and study before you poo-poo tight end. I'm the Miz.